Welcome back, Deep Divers. Today, we're tackling a question that's, well, pretty massive.
Yeah, this one's going to stretch our minds a bit, I think.
Our listener wants us to imagine humanity's place in creation.
Okay, I can picture that. We've done that before.
And here's the twist. They want to look at it like we're watching a time lapse, right?
Like a sped up film of the universe unfolding. Cool.
Exactly. But they're not just asking about watching. They want to know, are we, like, in the film?
Oh, are we actors, not just audience members?
Are we shaping what happens in each frame of that cosmic movie? Are we actually co-creating reality?
That's a big question. Makes you feel kind of small and significant at the same time.
Right. To help us wrap our heads around this, they've given us some interesting sources.
Yeah, I was looking through the list. We've got Vipassana meditation texts.
Okay, getting spiritual right off the bat.
Then some ancient wisdom from the ALïEN and astrology.
Classic deep dive material. But there's also something a bit unexpected.
A scientific research paper. What about...
It claims, get this, the sun is a phenomenon created by the planet's motions.
Wait, hold on. Is that saying what I think it's saying?
We'll get to that. But it's safe to say this deep dive might take us down some paths we haven't been down before.
All right, I'm intrigued. Where do we even begin with this idea of humans as co-creators?
Well, the Vipassana text gives us a good place to start.
Lay some groundwork. Makes sense.
It says body, sensations, mind, and mental contents are the 4 dimensions of a human being. Okay, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, breaking down the elements of our existence.
But then it goes on, to understand this human phenomenon correctly, each of us must experience the reality of ourselves directly.
There's the deeper layer. Not just knowing about it, but living it.
It's like, to understand our role in this grand cosmic movie, we got to start with understanding ourselves.
Self-awareness is the first step to cosmic awareness. Interesting.
What do you think that kind of direct experience might show us? About our potential as co-creators, I mean.
It might reveal that we're not just passive viewers in this cosmic film, like just along for the ride.
Oh, I like where you're going with this.
We might be active participants, influencing the direction, the energy, the very fabric of what unfolds.
Whoa. Okay, so instead of just watching the movie, we're somehow involved in making it.
Our thoughts, intentions, actions, they might be shaping each frame, scene by scene.
But how much control do we actually have?
That's where the idea of free will comes in. Both the Vipassana text and the ALïEN touch on this.
All right, let's rewind a bit. If we're talking about co-creating reality, I want to know, how free are we, really?
Right. Are we improvising or following a script?
Well, the Vipassana text talks about Dhamma, the law of nature.
Like a universal set of guidelines.
Yeah, and it says true freedom comes from aligning ourselves with this law, experiencing and verifying it for ourselves.
So not just doing whatever we want, but acting in a way that's in tune with a deeper understanding of reality.
Exactly. It's like there are rules to this cosmic movie set, and true freedom comes from knowing how to work within them.
Now, the ALïEN brings in this concept of the advance of consciousness.
Okay, what does that mean?
It talks about channeling our inner drives in a focused, disciplined way, leading to what it calls psychic integration.
So we're not just stumbling through the scenes, we can actually become more conscious, more intentional.
And that greater consciousness might allow us to become more skillful co-creators.
But how does this play out on the cosmic stage? Does it give us more influence over the story?
To answer that, we need to consider the influence of time and cycles, which are major themes in both the ALïEN and the astrology sources.
Okay, let's hit pause on the action for a second, talk about time. Is it a limit on our co-creative freedom, or is it more like a framework we can work within?
Let's start with the astrology source and its mention of the Metonic cycle.
Metonic cycle, refresh my memory.
It's a 19-year lunar cycle. Ancient civilizations used it to understand and predict the moon's phases.
So there's a rhythm, a predictable pattern, even in something as seemingly chaotic as the moon's movements.
Exactly. It shows that even in the vastness of space, there's an underlying order, a beat to the cosmic drum.
So there's a tempo to this cosmic film. But does that mean our parts are predetermined, or can we still improvise?
Well, the astrology source also talks about the precession of the equinoxes.
Okay, that one rings a bell, but vaguely.
It's a much larger cycle, spanning about 26,000 years. And astrologers believe it marks the transition between astrological ages, each age having its own unique themes and influences.
Hold up, you're saying the whole film reel is subject to these massive cycles?
It seems so, like there are cosmic plot twists happening on a grand scale.
Does that limit our free will? Or expand it? I'm not sure.
It's a fascinating question. Maybe it's not about defying these cycles, but understanding them. working within their framework to create meaningful narratives.
Using the rhythms of the cosmos to tell our stories. I like that.
The I Ching offers a perspective here. It says, the sun and moon are consistent in their illumination, and the 4 sequential seasons are consistent in their cycles of growth.
So consistency, reliability, even as everything is in flux.
And it continues, the sages are consistent in their work, and all under heaven are transformed.
There's that transformation again. But is that transformation guided by these cycles?
Perhaps. Maybe that consistency is the guiding principle for our role as co-creators.
Okay, so we've got this idea of direct experience, free will operating within natural laws, and these massive cycles influencing the unfolding of events. We're starting to map out the terrain of this cosmic film set.
We are, and I think it's time we turned our attention to a source that really shakes things up.
The sun paper. Yeah, let's dive into that.
This paper, it's called The Sun is a Phenomenon Created by the Planet's Motions. Bold claim, right?
Definitely not what they taught us in school. So the sun, the thing that makes life on Earth possible, you're saying it might be created by what? Us?
Well, not just us, but all the planets, their movements.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
It's a wild idea. The paper uses this analogy, compares space to a giant ocean.
Okay, I like analogies. Makes things easier to grasp.
The planets, they're like fish swimming through this ocean of space. And as they move, they create ripples.
Ripples, like in the fabric of space-time itself. Whoa!
That's the idea. So our movements, all the planet's movements, we're not just floating around, we're creating these waves.
Okay, I'm visualizing it. But how do those waves, those ripples, how do they create the sun's energy?
That's where the paper gets a bit vague, I gotta say. It doesn't give a clear explanation.
So should we even take it seriously?
I think even if we take it as a thought experiment, it sparks some really interesting questions.
I'm all about thought experiments.
Yeah.
What kind of questions does it raise for you? Especially thinking about our listeners' question about co-creation.
Well, and that's a big if the sun's energy is a product of our motion, then it adds a whole other layer to this idea of humans as co-creators.
We're not just shaping our little corner of the universe, we're influencing the very thing that gives us life.
Potentially, yeah. It's like we're not just the actors in the film, we're somehow contributing to the power source of the projector itself. Pretty wild, huh?
Mind-blowing. But does that change how we think about free will?
Definitely makes it more complex. If our movements are affecting the sun, are we doing it consciously? Or are we all just part of this massive cosmic dance where our individual choices are intertwined with the movements of the planets?
It's like we're all choreographing a cosmic ballet, but we're not sure who's leading and who's following. It makes me think about boundaries, guidelines. If we have this much influence, how do we make sure we're not messing things up?
The Vipassana text, remember it talks about finding refuge in Dhamma, that natural law.
Right.
Maybe understanding these laws, these principles that govern the universe, that's how we use this co-creative power wisely.
So it's not just about doing whatever we want. It's about knowing the steps to the cosmic dance.
Exactly. And the Eightfold Path, it's all about ethical conduct, mental discipline. Could that be a framework for responsible co-creation, maybe?
Like a guidebook for how to be good cosmic citizens, making sure the film we're making is beautiful and beneficial. But this idea that our movements might affect the sun, how does that fit with the I Ching?
Well, the I Ching, it's all about yin and yang, the interplay of opposites, the constant change, and it talks about aligning ourselves with the Tao, the natural order of the universe.
So even if it doesn't mention planets and suns specifically, the underlying philosophy is similar, that everything is connected.
Yeah, and our actions, they have these ripple effects that go way beyond what we can see. The I Ching, it says, the superior man sets his mind at rest before he moves and takes action only when the time is ripe.
Whoa, that's deep.
Maybe that's what conscious co-creation is about. Not just understanding that everything is connected, but acting with a sense of timing, harmony.
So it's not just what we do, but when and how we do it. There's an art to it. But how do we learn that art? Is it something we're born with, or is it something we can cultivate?
That brings us back to the Vipassana text and its focus on self-awareness.
Right, through that direct experience we were talking about earlier. So how does becoming more self-aware actually make us better co-creators? So we're diving deep into this idea that we're all shaping reality, like contributing to this cosmic film with our actions. But how do we actually become more aware of that influence? The Vipassana text seems to point us towards self-awareness.
Yeah, it encourages a deep observation of yourself.
Oof.
Your body, sensations, mind, mental contents, everything.
Really paying attention to what's going on inside.
In this direct experience, it helps you see things differently.
Differently how?
You start to see the impermanent nature of reality, how everything is interconnected. You don't judge, you don't cling, you just observe.
So peeling back the layers, seeing the machinery of our own being, does that then lead to like better co-creation?
Well, as you become more self-aware, you see the cause and effect. How your thoughts, intentions, actions, they all shape your experience. And they influence others too.
It's like we're realizing we're holding the paintbrush, and we can choose what colors we use, what we paint on the canvas.
Exactly. And as we become more conscious of that, we become more responsible.
More careful about what we create, what we put out into the world. But if we're all painting this picture together, isn't there a chance we might clash, have different visions?
Of course, conflict is part of the process. The I Ching reminds us, when innocent action begins to meet with resistance, it is best to disconnect and fall back on acceptance.
Oh, that's a good one. So recognizing that we can't control everything.
Exactly. There will be parts of the film we don't like, but we have to accept that.
We can act with integrity, but also accept the things we can't change. But how do we even know if we're contributing to, like, a good movie, a masterpiece, or something that's just a total flop?
The Vipassana text, remember, it says true freedom lies in aligning ourselves with Dhamma, the law of nature.
Right, those universal principles.
Maybe the quality of our co-creation depends on how closely we align with that deeper truth.
So if we're living in accordance with those principles, like truth, compassion, understanding, then we're more likely to create something good, something beautiful.
It's a possibility worth considering, and it brings us back to self-awareness as the foundation.
Knowing ourselves so we can better contribute to the world. This has been a pretty mind-bending deep dive. We've explored ancient wisdom, modern science, even gotten into cosmic metaphors.
It's been quite a journey.
What stands out to you as the biggest takeaway?
For me, it's remembering that we're not just watching creation happen, we're actively taking part in it. Every thought, word, action, it all contributes to the reality we experience. And that can be a bit scary, but it's also incredibly empowering.
Absolutely. So, dear listener, as you navigate your own journey, remember, you're not just watching the story unfold, you're helping to write it.
And the awareness, intention, and compassion you bring to that writing, that's what shapes the quality of the story.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into co-creation. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep creating the reality you want to see.